What's up, everyone? I hope you can hear me all right. This is probably going to be the last live this year, so I hope you will be able to tune in and ask me questions. And for those, oh, hey, Stefan. And for those who can't be with us today, obviously just post your questions under this video and I will reply whenever I'm online. So today's video is actually going to be lots of fun because I wanted to share with you something that allows people to stay on track and not get distracted and make sure that their New Year's or birthdays resolutions stick. The reason why so many people make those plans and make those resolutions and then just veer away from them and it all falls apart fairly quickly is because they don't know their mind well enough to actually require obedience from it and expect it to execute your commands. So what I mean by that is that we have, as you probably know, we have different layers of the mind on which we operate. Hey, Stuart. Different layers of the mind on which we operate. And so, oh, hey, Paul. And so when people make that decision or that plan or that resolution, what they use to make it happen is their conscious layer of the mind. And the problem with that layer is that it doesn't necessarily do what is best for us because it is often, well, quite frankly, distracted and it's often subject to temptations, and especially by all those fake goals created by society, because we're surrounded with that ocean of ideas of what we should be, how we should behave, who we should choose for a partner, what kind of a job we should do, and all those things. And so the conscious mind, seduced by all that, tries to make some resolution based on those expectations and ideas that it has adopted. But the subconscious mind may disagree with that, and in most cases it does. Hey, Joseph. In most cases it does. And so what happens is that the desires in the conscious mind and the desires in the subconscious mind clash. And the problem with that is that the subconscious mind, as you probably know, always wins. And so if the subconscious mind does not agree with the course of action set by the conscious mind, it will sabotage it. So apart from obviously meditating and going deeper into those layers and understanding what really sits there, there is a really easy way to say what it is that is making you tick right now. Because what we achieve in our life are not our plans and not our desires or our goals, but our priorities. So we always act on our top priorities. For example, think of a kid who doesn't want to do his homework, but he loves playing with his friends, for example, or he loves computer games, or he loves going out, well, maybe when he's a bit older. And so, he never fails to do those things. He never needs to be reminded to do those things, and nobody has to watch him or make sure that it happens, and nobody needs to motivate him either. And so when you're looking for your true priorities in life, have a look at what you do every day spontaneously without having anyone to motivate you, without having anyone to keep you accountable. Because if you require someone to keep you accountable, that's an alarm bell. It means that something is not quite right there. Because when we live our true priorities, we don't need any external motivation. We are drawn to it naturally. So how to find out what your true priorities are? It's actually fairly straightforward. So your life always reflects your highest priorities. And remember, not desires, but priorities. And so you're always wealthy and abundant in what you put your mind into. well, as you know, where attention goes, energy flows. And wherever energy flows, wealth appears, because abundance is a physical representation of energy. And so, for example, a person whose priority is to learn is or can be very wealthy in knowledge and understanding, but not necessarily financially. A person who puts all his attention, or at least a big part of his attention, into learning how to deal with money and how to invest and how to save, for example, he will see that money multiplies in his life. Similarly, a person who values interpersonal connections and being loved, for example, the most, will have that manifested in his or her life. And so it can actually be quite, well, shocking for some people to realize that what we desire, or what we think we desire, and our true priorities, so rightly or wrongly, these are the desires that sit in the subconscious mind, can actually create quite a big clash. And so ways to see your priorities is that look around, see what is manifested in your life, what it is you think about the most when your thoughts just drift somewhere, and what it is you love reading about, watching YouTube videos about, talking about with other people. What do you do spontaneously every day, and nobody needs to remind you ever, and actually every possibility you get, you go and do this particular thing? And also, what do you tend to spend your money on? So again, if you think that you have a desire of some kind, and when the opportunity to acquire it arrives, you say, oh, I can't really afford it. It means that it's not high on your priority list. Because when something is our true priority, we will always find the money, the possibility, the connections together, because this is how it works. We are driven by our highest priorities, and we defend them essentially, at the cost of anything else, because we're wired that way. And so have a look at what surrounds you on the physical plane, what kind of objects you have around, what kind of books, what kind of people you talk to, and what you talk about, and what you spend money on, and what you want to learn about. And another helpful exercise is to think, for example, if you had to spend a year on a manless island, and there was one thing that you would be able to learn there, only one, what would you like to learn for a year? So once you answer these questions, you will see, at least in general, you will see the shape of what your priorities are at the moment. And then you can compare your goals and your resolutions and see whether they match those priorities or not. And if they don't, they're probably not going to happen. How to make them match? So look at your priorities right now and ask yourself whether those priorities help you live the life you want, whether they actually move you towards your mission and your purpose. And if the answer is no, think of what kind of values and what kind of priorities would do that for you. And create a list, an actual physical list of reasons why you need them. And the more reasons you can list, the more it will sink into your mind, and the more you will naturally start acting upon it. In general, it is a really good exercise to look through your mind and see what kind of priorities it operates on. And it can be really eye-opening to do so, because sometimes we may not even realize what it is that is actually driving us. And as I explained earlier, if you set your goals aligned with your priorities, and you make sure that those priorities are aligned with your life mission, then you will be unstoppable. So the general principle is to check and determine where your energy goes. So through your thoughts, through your actions, through your conversations, and through the people you meet, things you talk about, things you research. So wherever your energy goes, and obviously money is a form of energy as well. So what do you spend your money on? What do you spend your time on? It's essentially an indication of what you value the most. So for example, let's say for me, I value teaching and writing and creating content, and this is what I do. So nobody needs to check on me whether I'm doing it, because actually before hopping on this video, I was writing a new book for you guys. So it's just something that doesn't need to, for alignments. What do you mean for alignments? Could you make it a bit clearer? Way to check for alignments. Do you mean, okay, so you can just type yes or no. Do you mean that you want to find out whether your goals are, or whether your priorities are in alignment with your life purpose? Okay. Telepathy rules. Okay, so how to understand whether your current priorities are in alignment with your values. So firstly, it's helpful to determine what group or what guild you belong to. And I posted an article earlier about it. So you can just see what it is you're drawn towards doing, and determine roughly the direction that you want to go to. And then have a think of what kind of values, what kind of skills, what kind of attitudes, and what kind of strength you as a person would need on the journey. So if you know roughly where you're going, you will know at least roughly what you need to take with you, right? Now look at your current priorities, current attitudes, and the things you're currently spending time on, and then determine whether these are right for your journey or not. So for example, let's give the most simple example. Let's say someone wants to travel and he wants to be a yachtsman. And so obviously what he needs to learn how to navigate yachts. He needs to bring his physical fitness level up. He needs to learn all things related to the weather and things like that. And so he can become a sailor or a captain one day. Okay, so if someone wants to be a teacher, similarly, you think what kind of teacher you want to become, and then what kind of skills you would need for that. Let's say you will need the knowledge of your subject, you will need public speaking skills. And look through your current priorities and current activities and determine whether you're spending enough time on developing those skills, whether they are high on your current priority list. And obviously, as I said, create a list where you write down, so you can see it very clearly, what is the benefit to have these priorities? What is the benefit of following this route? And the more points you can add to a list, the better. So I aim to have at least 20. If you can do more, do more. But this is what it essentially comes down to. Determine roughly where you want to go. It doesn't matter if you don't know the details yet, because you can figure those out along the way. But you roughly know the decision. See whether what you're currently spending your time, money, and thinking energy on is what you need to get. Okay, Jessit. What if you're unsure about what you want to pursue? The thing is, you're not ever quite completely unsure, because even if you're unsure about the details, you know the general direction, because you can't not know what your passion is. You know what you're passionate about. You know what you love doing. You know what makes you feel alive. And there are people who suppress their own personality and become a complete social product, to the point where they sort of forget what it is to be alive and what it is to be excited and what it is to be passionate. I don't actually think it's you, Jess, but there are people who do sort of forget it. Well, they don't forget, they suppress. in which case the best course of action for them is to actually go ahead and try different things. Just do them. And as soon as they do something that is in alignment with their purpose, they can't help but respond to it. Something inside them just trembles and comes to life and says, I want more of this, please. So go ahead and try different things, try different activities until you come across one that will feel right. And obviously when that happens, the main point is to get your conscious mind out of the way, because it will start judging, it will start saying, oh, you can never make a living out of this, for example, or what will other people say, and some such. So once you find something that makes you feel alive, that makes you feel excited, just learn how you can serve the world by doing that, and find ways of actually doing it. And once you put your mind into it, you can do it. So just make sure that you remain free from those internal judgments. Okay. Can you change your priorities? Yes, you can, and you absolutely should in most cases. So yes, that's the whole point. You can change your priorities. As I explained earlier, what you need to do is to find the new priorities that you need on your life path. And from the description of the 7 guilds, you can find your general direction and start moving in this general direction, and find out what kind of skills, what kind of strength, what kind of attitudes and actions you will need on that path, and write down why it is good for you. Try to get it to at least 20 points. If you can do more, do more. But this is what you need to do, and start acting on those priorities. And you will see how slowly your mind is actually changing, because you can rewrite it. You can rewrite the patterns that you're running on. And that's the whole point of mind training. Because, well, even on the physical level, we have neuroplasticity. And that means that we can physically change the neural pathways of our brain. Because as we develop new skills or new exercise routine, for example, it changes the circuitry of our brain. And our mind, which is the energy counterpart of our brain, and it's actually much greater and much more powerful. So our mind is even more flexible, because there is no physical matter to wait for you to change and to restructure yourself. You can start working with the energy patterns pretty much straight away. And this is why it's so exciting, because you can see the results much quicker than you see the results with your physical body. For example, when you exercise, it takes some time for the muscles to appear, whereas with the mind, you can start rewriting your patterns and you will see the results pretty much straight away. Just a quick summary. To make sure that your plans and resolutions come true, just check if they are in alignment with your highest priorities. And then, for your own sake, check that your highest priorities are in alignment with your life mission. And that's pretty much what you need to succeed. Plus, obviously, the desire and the determination to do so. All right. Have a lovely evening, everyone. And see you probably in the new year.